Creating backgrounds with rounded corners has always involved images and complex structures of nested divs. Not anymore, thanks to the CSS3 box radius property. Even this circular background is created with CSS, as you'll see when I disable a couple of style rules in the Properties pane of the CSS Styles panel. As you can see, it's just an ordinary div which is square in shape. So let me show you how to apply the border radius property in Dreamweaver CS55. Let's go to the original copy of the page. And you need to be in live view because Dreamweaver applies border radius dynamically. So if you're in live view, you can actually see and visually adjust the amount of roundness on the corners. Let's first do it with this column of text. Select the div that it's in the tag selector at the bottom of the document window. So that has given us in the Properties pane of the CSS Styles panel the rules for the content style rule. So add property, and it's border radius that we want to apply. When you select it, Dreamweaver puts a little icon in the value field. Click that icon, and you can set the corner radius to be the same for all. And if you set the same for all, you just need to change the value of top left. So as I begin to change the value, you should be able to see that the corner up here is beginning to change. And the more that I increase it, now at 15 pixels, you can see that there's a rather nice rounded corner there. If you want to apply different amounts of roundness to the corners, deselect this checkbox and then change the values in top left, top right, and bottom left. I'm not going to do that for the moment. I'll just reselect it so we've got the same amount of roundness on each corner. The border radius property is fully supported by the most recent versions of all mainstream browsers, but it was originally introduced in Firefox and Safari on an experimental basis, so you need to add the Moz and WebKit vendor-specific prefixes to the style definition. Now the quick way to do that is to right-click the property, the border radius property, in the Properties pane of the CSS Styles panel, and select Go to Code from the context menu, and that takes you directly to the border radius definition within the style rule that you've been working on. And I'm just going to select that, copy it to my clipboard by pressing Ctrl-C on Windows or Command-C on a Mac, put in a new line and paste it twice. Then on the first one I'll put -moz, and on the second one -webkit. So now we've got three properties there, two with vendor-specific prefixes, one for older versions of Firefox and the other one for older versions of Safari. And at the bottom is the official property, border radius. Because the official property comes last, that takes precedence. So if somebody views this page in a new version of Firefox, so it will ignore the one with the vendor-specific prefix and apply the correct one, border radius. But in older versions of Firefox that don't recognize the standard property, they'll apply the vendor-specific version. So how do you create a circle? Well, let's select this particular div in live view. It's the reminder div. And you can see in the properties pane here that the height is 130 pixels and the width is 130 pixels. In other words, it's a square. So if I apply a border radius that's half that amount, in other words 65 pixels, I'll create a circle. So let's just do that quickly. Border radius. Click that little icon. I want the corner radius to be the same for all, and I'm going to put 65 in there. And as you see, a perfect circle. And that's all there is to it. Of course, you need to add the vendor-specific prefixes to border radius again, so go to Code and add the vendor-specific prefixes for Moz, which is Firefox, and WebKit for the older versions of Safari. So there you are. Adding rounded corners to backgrounds with the border radius property is quick and easy in Dreamweaver CS55. The property is supported in the latest versions of all browsers, but not in Internet Explorer 6 through 8. Older browsers simply ignore the border radius property, leaving straight corners. It's not as attractive, but it's certainly not a disaster either.